Joining me today at the Rio Theater is professional photographer Philip Chin, and he's here today to talk about his work and what is next for him. Welcome, Phil.
Yes, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so when did your interest in photography begin?
Good question. I'm gonna say probably in 85 or 86, 1985. So it's dating it a bit. And basically a friend dared me to try photography.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's what got me to college for photography.
Yes, and where did you go to school?
I went to Langara Community College, and that was a 2-year program, and it was 2 of the hardest years of my life. Well, no, I won't say that now. Back then it was 2 of the hardest years of my life, but now it's like a cakewalk.
Was there a pivotal moment that you knew that, yes, this is what I want to do?
Actually, there was a few times about that. But I'll say the latest one was in the last 10 years when I started doing this process called tintype photography. That's when I was rejuvenated again with my photography.
Yeah, so tell us, what is it? I mean, for the viewers may not know.
Mm-hmm. Tintype photography was one of the earliest types of photography. So basically what happens is that back in the 1850s, the first process was using this thing called wet plate collodion photography. So it's using collodion. And they were shooting on metal and glass plates back then. So the process was you use collodion, you pour it onto a metal plate, you coat the plate, and then you put it, you coat the plate, and then you put it into a solution called silver nitrate, and that makes it sensitive to light. And from there, you have the plate, the metal plate, and you put it into a cartridge. You put it into the back of a camera, you would take a picture. Usually it's about anywhere from 10 seconds to 2 minutes is the exposure time. And then after that, you would develop it and fix it, and then you would have an image. So basically the whole process, the plate, the film itself has to remain wet throughout the whole time. And that was one of the most common types of photography back then, from the 1850s to 1890s. It was very popular, yeah.
And now it's
come back
retro.
full circle. It's
Yes.
come back full circle.
Yeah, so what do you love most about it?
What I like best about it is that I would say, let's say this. What I do now is all digital photography for work. So I'm taking a picture, I'm working on a computer, I'm basically retouching and doing things like this, which is great for work. But what I missed was the art of photography. When I started photography, I had to process black and white film. You had to do the darkroom, you had to know the camera, you had to know your film. You had to understand the whole process. So I missed that part of being like a hands-on. You could smell the chemicals. There's this whole tactile feel. It's what I loved back then, and then it's gone now with digital. But with this process, I'm even going back further when I first started. So instead of 1980s, I'm going to the 1850s.
Wow.
So it's a whole process on its own. And I'll say this, it's a craft.
Yes.
You have to learn it, and you have to understand it. And it's like a dance, the way you work with all the chemistry and the photography and everything. So for me, it's magical.
Yes, and tell us, you have a pop-up studio, right?
Yep, I have a little pop-up studio over at Cambie 6th. And basically, I've set up a small tintype studio. So basically, people come in, we do some photography. I shoot with my old cameras from the early 1900s. I take them through the whole process of taking a tintype portrait. So they get to experience, I get to take them through a journey of what it was like back then. And people, they enjoy it. It's something they haven't experienced before. And it's magical. And for a lot of people, it's very magical, seeing the image appear. So,
Yes.
yeah.
You go, wow, it's a craft, as you said.
Yes.
But who have you had down to your studio?
Let me think. Who have I? Well, I have you. I had you come down. I had a person named Chairman Ting. He was a cool guy. Paul Wong, who's an artist in Chinatown.
Yes.
Very famous guy. I've had different cosplayers. I think I've shot actors. Quite a mix of people. Yeah.
And how do you connect with your subject, like to, make them feel comfortable? And so when they come to your studio, what is it that that you try to get them to relax?
I get them to relax. I welcome them in, basically. Like, I get them to, it's a collaboration, basically. I get them to participate in the whole project. So it's not just me taking a photograph. I'm getting their input. I'm getting their participation, excuse me. It's them giving up their time. And I appreciate that time. And I show that in the way we talk, we communicate, and how we do the whole process. So it's just a calming process. And taking them through that whole thing, it's kind of calming and relaxing. And I think as you went through it.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was quite, sometimes it's intense because they're holding still for about 20 seconds, 22 seconds.
Yes.
So it's very hard to hold still for a photograph like that, yeah.
Don't move.
Yes, it's hard to do that, yeah.
Yeah, so you're also an instructor too, right? And you talk about it.
Yes, I teach in Vancouver here, the Shadbolt Center for the Arts. So I teach different photography courses, but the main one I teach is tintype photography. So I share my craft again. And then I also do it in Toronto, a place called Gallery 44, which I just came back from. I kind of go back and forth to Toronto quite a bit for work, but I love teaching out there because the students always appreciate this process. And the Gallery 44 is Canada's largest co-op gallery, I believe, photography gallery, and they also have an instructional facility as part of it, and that is where I teach.
Wow. I mean, you're actually, giving information, which is important, information about how photography was done back in those days. So it's really it's a journey, as you said. And so you also do beauty portraits, and can you tell us your very first portrait that you did?
Eric McCormick. He was kind of fun to photograph. So I did a portrait of him back in December. It wasn't tintype, it was just photography.
Yes.
And that was nice to collaborate with him. We did the shots in the studio, and he's very giving. He's a very well-known actor, so I felt very privileged to have him there. And there's so he was very giving in the session. So he's a collaborator, so I was very fortunate with that one. That's quite recent. And there's many more, but so on top of my head, it's hard to think right now.
Yeah. So Phil, was there anyone that you really were hoping to photograph and it came true?
Ooh, good question. Okay, one of my earlier photos was of a young actress named Kristen Kruk, who was on Smallville. And so I got to photograph her about 20 years ago. I believe it was about 20 years, right when she started Smallville. So I got to photograph her on her first magazine cover. And then, so I remember the art director, Andrew, and I went to the location. We did some shots of her, and it was fun spending time with her. And then she was telling us that Rolling Stone was going to photograph her, Tom Welling, Michael Rosenbaum, like the three main actors, the following week for the cover. So I thought, and she told me I was the first one to photograph her for a cover. So that was pretty cool. So that was very fun. And then 3 years ago, just before COVID came, I got to photograph her again. And I got to, so I got to do another portrait of her as well. So that was kind of fun. So right now, she's doing very well in the industry, I believe. Like she produces, she directs. She was on a TV show called Reacher, which just came out in the last couple months. So she's doing well for herself. So I'm quite happy for her.
Wow. What is next for you?
Next, I am working more on my tintype projects between Vancouver and Toronto. So I'm doing a couple of series, but the one I'm most interested about now is about Chinatown.
Oh.
So basically, I wanted to capture the essence of Chinatown in Vancouver and Toronto. So I'm going to be finding people from the community, like say the grandmother who raised their grandchildren, the storekeeper, the person who is a lion dancer, the people who embrace the Chinese culture. So I'm doing that in Vancouver and in Toronto. So that was part of the project. And I kind of want to expand it more across Canada because there's more Chinatowns across Canada as I did more research. And then it's also part of a bigger project. I guess since COVID started, a lot of people have not been, we'll say, how should I say this? The Asian community has not been well received, we'll say. Okay, so I want to kind of work on a project where I'm documenting or photographing more of the Asian community as a whole to show that, we're no different. There should be no animosity between the Asian community. So that's a larger project I'm working on as well. So it just kind of is evolving from a smaller project from photographing people from Chinatown into something a little bigger and a little bigger. So I'm kind of passionate about that project right now. So I'm hoping to start that very soon. So I've already made my contacts in Vancouver, I made my contacts in Toronto, and then I got a few in Victoria and a few in Calgary. So it's all slowly going to come in place. I'm very excited about that.
Yes.
And that's all going to be in tintype. So, so that's going to be a big project, yeah.
Yes, and if people want to reach out to you, where can they go?
Good question. I guess my website, chinphoto.com, tintype portraits _Canada.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Thank you for making time for me today. I appreciate it. Because I had to postpone it like 3 times. So it's like I'm going back to Toronto.
It's all about timing. And thank you
is.
so much for being a guest on the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.